Well, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday. I'm Aura Vasquez, and I am so excited to be here today at another Get to Know the Candidate. I have been hosting different candidates that are running for office here in California, especially in Los Angeles, to teach us about who they are, to let us know what their vision is for Los Angeles, and also to just hear your comments and your questions for them. So, thank you and welcome. Get cozy because today I am very excited to be speaking with David Kim, who is a candidate for Congress. So, Kim actually ran for Congress before, and I am super stoked to have him here. So, if you guys care anything about our federal government, or even okay, let me see, I'm trying to get David here, or if you are interested on learning more about what a congress member does, this is the conversation for you. And he's going to tell us about his district, a little bit of his story. So welcome David, how are you?
Hi, Aura. Good. Thank you so much for having me. I was just making sure I looked okay for a second.
I know that's the always nerve-wracking part when you're going live. You're like, am I saying the right thing?
Yeah,
Do I look okay? So you look great.
yeah.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
being
so
with
much.
us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, excited to be here.
So I also just want to welcome the space, and this is something that I have been trying to do through my live streams now. I want to remind everyone that we are in a stolen land of indigenous people. We are in Tovenga land and Machush and Chamush land. So let's not forget that we are here in Boro land, and this is sacred indigenous land. So I know that we are meeting virtually, but with this acknowledgement, we hope that one day they will recover their rights and their land and their sovereignty. Okay, so but welcome. Thank you so much for being with us.
Yes, thank you. Let's get this started.
Yeah. So I know you because you ran last time around, and it was such a exciting surprise to see you running. But I feel like I don't know a lot of your story or who you are. I was reading a little bit about who you are on your website, and learned that you are also an immigrant. But I would love to welcome you and ask you to please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
Yeah, for sure. I know that we always talk about campaigns a lot. We forget what the candidate is like and who the person is. So, for those of you who don't know, my name is David Kim. Um, My parents actually immigrated here through Los Angeles first years ago, and then all of our relatives ended up immigrating here through Los Angeles as well. And then we grew up along the West Coast, or I grew up along the West Coast in Arizona, Washington State, and then now in California again. And I've been living. I mean, we would always move. We would always visit LA every year because our grandma and our relatives were here, and our grandma's the matriarch of the family, and so you always visit her every year. But I eventually moved back here 2010, so it's been about 12 years. I've been an attorney in different areas of law, from labor and employment, representing plaintiffs, workers, to representing creatives, and then now immigration. And so in immigration, representing 100% undocumented clients in court when they get their removal or deportation notice, defending, representing them, trying to get their stay here to be longer. And then also, I've had the experience of representing vulnerable parents of Los Angeles County and Children's Court. So when a social worker charges them for potential abuse or neglect or what have you. And essentially, for not having resources, they're taken to children's court, and then their children are taken from them and put into foster care and then into eventual permanent adoption for a lot of these families simply because they don't have resources. That work that I did last year really opened my eyes into thinking, you know what? I know we lost last cycle, but times are really tough. Things haven't
Yeah.
changed. We really need big change, and so because of the work that I did in that area, we thought, hey, let's run again since we came so close. So that's why we're here today
Wow.
talking with you. Yeah.
Exciting, exciting. I know it takes so much courage for one to kind of make that decision because there's so many factors, and hopefully we can talk about those a little later. But from how many people are running, to what's the environment, the political environment in the area, and there is so many different office, posts to run for, city council, senate, local, state level, and federal level. What inspired you to run for Congress? Why Congress?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I was also wondering that question last cycle and this cycle again. Why Congress? And it's because we've been planting and sowing seeds in this district for a long time. I know for some who don't know about our campaign and I'm meeting for them for the first time, the first question is, "Oh, you're not a career politician? That's great." Second question, follow-up question is, "Why don't you start with city council?" And it's like it's a very logical question, and it's like I know that would be a great step to start off with. But we have an amazing candidate running in my city council district, Eunices Hernandez.
Yes,
Definitely,
I had her
yeah.
in my live stream too. She's great. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So she would be my future city council member. So we have that covered. But for me personally, it started several years ago. I was actually just minding my own business, run doing 2 to 4 jobs, trying to make ends meet, and I received a text from Kenneth Mejia, who was running for Congress at the time, and now he's currently running for city controller,
Yeah.
and he was actually running for the same position I'm running for now, and I ended up volunteering for him. I became his video coordinator. I canvassed, I phone banked, I did all of that. And he came really close as a Green Party candidate. He won almost 30% of the total vote as a Green Party candidate. And that's big because in our district, less than 1% is registered as Green. So
Right.
that means a third of Democrats voted not for their congressman, they voted for the challenger.
Right.
And so when we saw that, we thought, you know what, there is like people are they want somebody who can lead as a visionary, not somebody who adds his name as a co-sponsor or adds her or their name as a co-sponsor when a majority of people sign on, because in a very sensitive time like this in Los Angeles, where we're experiencing houselessness, poverty, financial distress, oppression in so many different areas, we need people leading and not just following. And so
Hmm.
in an area like Los Angeles, the question becomes, hey, why don't we have people from LA fighting for us in Congress like people in New York are fighting for their communities in Congress? Why don't we have that here in LA? Like, why is it that we only hear from those other members of Congress? And so from Kenneth, from the volunteering I did there, that's where I learned a lot in terms of thinking, in terms of realizing, oh wow, these politicians that continue to get reelected, they're just there to basically warm up the seat. They're just there because they look like people in the community. And what the establishment does is they do that on purpose so that they can keep people quiet. And so it's very disheartening, Aura, when you realize that our district, it's the top 15 poorest congressional district out of 400 plus in the country. It has the most number of children living in one household unit because rent is too damn high. And so we have
Hmm.
multiple families living in one household unit. It's also a district where we received the smallest number of PPP loans for small businesses, one of the lowest districts. And so, in so many ways, like we can have all of these representatives say, "Oh, I'm doing this for our district," but no, what you're doing is what every single Congress member is doing. What sets you apart in leading Los Angeles out of what we're in right now? And
Hmm.
so when Kenneth said, I'm not going to run again. When he said that he wasn't going to run again in 2020, I thought, hey Kenneth, is it okay if I run then? I know I have no political experience. I know I'm just a local activist. I know that I help my clients every day in court, defending them, fighting for their right to stay here. But can I run? Like I've never had experience. He was like, sure, go ahead and run. And so that's how we ended up. Yes, so that's how we ended up running for a federal position, Aura, not a city or county one first. And
Wow,
so,
that's amazing. But I
yeah,
think your experience is so perfect for that position because you work with a
yeah,
lot of immigrants that are dealing with our broken immigration, federal, law. that is flawed and it doesn't recognize people as humans, treat them like they're secondhand citizens, people that come and seek for asylum have a really hard time in our borders. And we just still have a big anti-immigrant sentiment in this country, rooted in patriarchy and in white supremacy, really.
Yeah.
So I think it's your experience. I think it fits right in, um, with running for Congress. So tell us about your district. If people are watching, like, who, yeah, where is your district? Who can vote for you?
Yeah. So about the district, and before I get into that, I think that's what I did realize after deciding to run for office. I thought, oh, hey, like this actually falls right in line with immigration. Like
Mhm.
we always talk about a pathway to citizenship, which is the first and foremost top of my priorities. But
Yeah.
there's other things that we can immediately do right now. And so these politicians, if they care to care a little more, if they care to spend more time into peering into, hey, if we can't get pathway to citizenship right now because of the right wing echo chambers and fighting that, what are immediate things we can do now? If they care that much, there are so many little things we can do right now,
Mhm.
Auda. Like for example, like for people who miss the 1 year filing requirement for asylum, they
Uh-huh.
can never apply for a work permit. And even if they got their work permit years ago, they can never renew their work permit because Trump, before he left office in August of 2020, he put into a rule where if you didn't fit the 1 year filing requirement, then you can't get a work permit regardless. And so those sort of things, like our members of Congress are not talking about, and
Why
and
aren't they not talking about
and
this?
they're not talking about it because they don't know about it. And they don't know about it because they're not talking with their constituents. They're
Right.
so disconnected from the
Mhm.
community. They don't know what the real issues are. So if you talk to community members and say, "Hey, what's your real issue?" And they say, "I need a work permit right now," or I won't be able to work at my job anywhere. I need these protections right now. I need this."
Right.
And so because they're so disconnected, they don't know that there are issues that they can work on right now. And then also because they don't care, they don't they lack the initiative to delve further into seeing what's possible. So anyhow, so given that, like as immigration attorneys, we have like a list of things, a wish list of things that
Mhm.
we feel that we want politicians to address, but they never do. So going back to the district, Audra. So our district, it's been redistricted like other districts. So it's primarily the same, but we do have added parts and taken parts out of the district. And so the new district is basically East LA on the east side. So East LA, east of even the 710, a little further down. So east of that, and then it goes south as to generally the 10 freeway.
Mhm.
But in downtown, it suddenly curves up north to 7th Street. And the reason why is it seems like it's an effect of gerrymandering,
Mm.
because they primarily carved out the richest parts of downtown and put it in the district south of us. When last year, all of that was in our district. So that could have made us even poorer statistics wise. So that's also something to really not think lightly of. And then it goes west to a little west of Koreatown, so where Wilton and that area is. And then it goes up to north, generally around the 101 freeway, north of historic Filipino town, into parts of Echo Park. Um, and so some constituents in our district might actually be voting in the heated CD13 race against Mitch O'Farrell.
Mhm.
And then you go all the way up north as to Eagle Rock, Glassell Park, Eagle Rock, Highland Park, and then coming back down again
Wow. So you have
around El Sereno. Yeah.
you have like downtown, some parts of Cape Town, East Hollywood in your district. You have Eagle Rock in your district,
Yeah.
Highland Park in your district. Yeah, so it's like pretty diverse.
Right.
Is your community majority? What's the demographics?
Demographics is Latine for 65%, and then you
Mm.
have about 20% Asian, and then you have from there the breakdown. I believe it's 10% Black, and then white and other. So it's a predominantly it's a district that really where immigration is one of the top issues
Mhm.
for every ethnic community
Yeah,
because
and
this
it's a
district
working class.
and a
Say it's a
working
working
class, right?
class.
And so For this district to not be able to have the right to work to be here, it does affect the ability to make a living. So
Oh,
everything's very interconnected with the red. There's histories of redlining in our district where a lot of neighborhood areas in our district have been shut out from investments and now they're being suddenly gentrified. Then on top of that, you have a housing crisis. Then on top of that, you have costs and rent that have risen over 37% over the last decade, but living wages have not. Then on top of that, you don't have the work to write. Then on top of that, you have oppression and climate change affecting. And so this district is it needs help. It needs a
yeah.
lot of help.
It definitely needs
So
attention, and it needs somebody
yeah.
that's gonna care and gonna fight for its constituents. All right, if you are just joining us, welcome. I'm speaking with David Kim, who is running for Congress for California District 34 in Congress. If you would like to ask a question, you can just post them in the comments. If you have any comments about our conversation, you can also post them in the comments, and I will try my best to ask your question. And I wanted to also ask you, besides kind of the demographics and what is your district, we cover why you're running. And I want to talk a little bit about what are your main issues, your vision for Los Angeles, and what are some of the things that you want to do. Earlier, you mentioned that immigration is a very important part of your platform. But what are some of the, let's say, like the three issues that you want to focus on when you get elected Congress member?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because my trade is immigration, I think that's just inevitably going to be a thing I'll be working on top priority when in office. But the other issues, I mean, I think what I echoed earlier before was the financial distress and poverty of our district is something that really, really needs to be
Small
addressed.
businesses, entrepreneurs,
Uh,
yeah.
yeah, and so with that, like you have per capita incomes of less than $30,000 in areas like Westlake, in Boyle Heights, but then the rent on average for a one-bedroom apartment is over 17, 1800. The
Wow.
math doesn't really make sense at all. And so one of the I mean, definitely jobs with living wages. We need a CCC, Civilian Climate Corps. We need all of those things. And it's going to take a lot of mobilization and support to do that, which I'm ready to do. But then one of the immediate things that we could immediately do is pass a universal basic income, I would
Yes.
argue, where and and that's something that would help us tremendously in so many different ways.
Uh-huh.
And we've seen last campaign, last cycle, our campaign actually did a basic income experiment where we were able to grant to 30 recipients $800 a month for 3 months. And a lot of them were just writing back saying, hey, it helped us pay the bills. It helped us stay in our housing
Apartment.
unit.
Uh-huh.
And yeah, and so it helps in so many different ways. And so Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said it in his book, Where Do We Go From Here? Um, the most direct way to abolish poverty is to lift them out of poverty, and you do that by putting cash directly into the hands of the American people. Because right now, out of families living in poverty, only 1 in 4 families that are living in poverty are actually receiving assistance, whether that be
Wow.
through a social safety net program, and 3 out of 4 families are shut out because they're so means tested because of lack of resources and information. And this trickles down into all of our different ethnic and immigrant communities as well. And so the effect is enormous. And so if we're able to establish something, and I know you're for a public bank because I've seen your posts, but if we were establish a public bank on the local and federal level where people could have access and they could get their UBI from the public bank account, and now everybody's able to access that, and then the money there is then used to invest in green, equitable infrastructure, then we have a win-win situation. But
Yeah.
the reason why that's not happening is because of all of these corporate political relationships and developers and all of that just tying in, whether it be with fossil fuel money, dirty energy money, whether it be with developers, banks, and stuff. And so the other important part of our platform, Auda, is in order to address the financial poverty, distress, in order to address the other issues affecting all of our communities, we really need to pick out one thing. I don't know if cancerous is the right word. It's not the right word, but this one influential thing, which would be corporate money. And we need to really beat back at the corporate money influence of politics, or take that down or wash it away, because um, what's happening right now is, if we continue to have politicians like every incumbent, mostly, where they say, hey, I support Medicare for all, but they're taking money from big farm. Hey, I support the Green New Deal, but I take money from military defense contractors, from LADWP, from Semper. What does that really mean? So one of our things is really pushing for democratic reform, democracy vouchers. What would that do in campaigns if we had something where every American was given a democracy voucher, a dollar to $100 to contribute to
Any
this
campaign.
campaign or
Hmm.
this measure. And so
Yeah,
I
I'm a
would
big
donate.
democracy voucher person too. I want to change that name though, but I know
Yeah,
what you mean. I'm
yeah,
big
yeah.
on.
I want to
I'm
change the name
definitely
though.
big on that, and getting the money out of politics.
Yeah, getting the money out of politics, exactly. And that's one way, because it's washing away against the influence that Citizens versus United has, in addition to ranked choice voting, in addition to the proportional representation and other things. And so those would be other big cores, because if we get rid of that, if we have democratic reform, then we can get to all of these issues that could help the people directly a lot faster.
I agree, and I'm from Colombia, and in Colombia we actually have many political parties.
Mhm,
You can choose 20, and they have slates and things like that. It makes it a little more dynamic, and it levels the play field, especially for people like us that are grassroots, more progressive
mhm,
candidates. I so appreciate you speaking about the money and politics, because that's such a huge issue.
mhm,
And one of the things that I learned while I was running, is that corporations have gone away in influencing in influencing politics because of independent expenditures. And maybe we can talk a little bit about this, because people don't, and I don't think a lot of people know, unless you're very entrenched in the political process, or if you have run or something like that, you don't know that corporations can open PACs and spend unlimited uh, amounts of money on elections, independently from the campaign. So, and this is protected under the First Right Amendment. So, freedom of speech. So, literally any corporation, and whether they like you or not, because you can also have independent expenditures against you. Like, for example, for me, when I ran, I was the only candidate in my race in 2020 that got an independent expenditure against. I mean, I felt very important. you know, some of the unions, the electrical workers, use $25,000 from the Petroleum Association and send out a mailer saying that I was not from here, and making it kind of ambivalent that I was neither nor American nor I live in my home. So this is important, because as we think about how we give more access to everyday people for funds to participate, I'm also a big proponent of public funded campaigns. And I think at city council we see in LA some of that change that has been incredibly helpful for candidates. And I would love to see something like that also at the national level. I feel like that should be something that we just do, and try to support more candidates that want to come in, and also uplift ideas and have maybe more connections with the community than more established candidates. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, no, I don't think you can say it more beautifully and so succinctly, in the sense of, the reason one of the big bottlenecks to change is preventing change makers from coming into Congress, from coming into local government, from coming
Yeah.
into state government, from coming into county government. And that's because once you allow that stream to flow, oh my gosh, you're going to see change left and right. So many big
Yeah.
things happening. But what's keeping that closed is this political campaign finance system that is, like what you said, is preventing anybody from running. And we saw that happen with Nina Turner in Ohio last week, where millions were spent against her.
Yeah.
You shared your example, and I think this is something that we just need to realize, because as you as a candidate, it's so easy, no matter how much kind of time and effort you put into, it's so easy for a corporate incumbent or for a corporate establishment candidate to wash you away with all of their mailers, to wash you away with their digital ads, and to win with money. And so definitely, I mean, you brought up matching funds. We'll be fighting for that. I think also the one most obvious point is banning corporate PAC money. I
Hmm.
know that Senator John Ossoff has a bill in Senate. I know Representative Ro Khanna has always introduced a No PAC Act bill every session, but even members of the Progressive Caucus have not joined it. They
I
call themselves progressive, but
know.
they never join it. And so,
I know because it's a
yeah,
double-edged sword, and it's yeah, it's kind of one of those things that's like, but I have some parts that help me, and yes, I do know, but I do
yeah,
feel that this issue of money and politics needs to really be brought back to the hands of everyday people. And for
yeah,
that, we need to make sure that everyday people have the resources, the funds, the platform, the voice to also make a dent in,
yeah.
in a campaign,
And
so
then Aura, it also affects kind of the way we spend our money in government too. So for
yeah.
example, while I was and I mean, I didn't I delved into one of my opponent's, the current congressman's donors. So one of his donors, I was prepping for a different thing I have tonight, but one of his donors is Poet LLC, which is a big gas, ethanol, allegedly alternative fuel company. But if you look into it, like, it's not really something that's helpful to our environment. It just rather harms everything that they do in a way. And Poet turns out to be one of Trump's biggest supporters, and they actually donate to more Republican candidates than Democratic candidates. But Poet is
Wow.
also one of the biggest donors of the current congressman. But if you actually look into Poet's subsidies and federal grants and tax breaks, they received 33 million. So imagine that money if it could go to people. Like, imagine that instead
Yeah.
of these corporate donors. So that's people say follow the money. So what does that mean if he takes money from big farm? Yes, it does actually affect us not being able to get Medicare. What does that mean, him taking money from big oil? Yes, that actually does affect us, and it actually takes away money that could go to the people and puts it into these corporate pockets
Yeah,
instead.
and these are the same
So
people that lobby other members of Congress and don't let a Green New Deal pass,
yeah,
or anything of that sort. So yeah,
yeah.
I totally understand. I want to bring a question of somebody I think is a good one. Is
Mhm.
if elected, what congressional committees you would like to see it on?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, our current congressman is serving on the Ways and Means Committee. I wouldn't mind, and I'd love to serve on the Ways and Means Committee. It's a powerful committee. But other committees I would also consider are appropriations, financial
Sure.
services, uh, budget, judiciary. Judiciary because I've had sort of this keen. Um, I mean, I've been in court a lot, and it's very I'm not gonna be a Debbie Downer. It's very sad though, Aura, when you're in court, like when I was in children's court or immigration court, and you're dealing with a judge that clearly should not be on the bench. And you're like, why in the world are you on the bench? And so it just ever since being in the courtroom, I've just realized how important it is to really pick good judges. So judiciary would definitely be up there, in addition to education and labor.
Wow,
And then
incredible.
yeah, the other smaller committees, definitely small business committee, because our SBA arm of the government could be doing 10 times more than what it's doing right now. And I feel like just we don't have anybody that cares enough to go in and reform that. So,
Yeah, I totally agree. And um, you are mentioning judges and the bench, and oftentimes this is not something that we focus on. I Last week I had Yi Young, she's running for judge
mm,
and local, and she was explaining this to us. Like, you want a judge that has checked its bias. That when you get there, doesn't find you guilty before you even explain yourself, so yeah, so we are much need, of something like that. And the small businesses, especially post pandemic, you see the struggle. People lost businesses of 20, 30, their whole life savings, because of the pandemic, and the small business. So it's so important. And I know your district quite well. And I know that there is tons of informal businesses, entrepreneurs, street vendors.
Hmm.
We just saw that video coming so heartbreaking from New York of that woman being, um, arrested for not having a permit. It's
Yeah.
heartbreaking what we do to people here in this country. Well, I want to welcome everyone. If you're just walking in here or tuning in, I'm speaking with David Kim. He is running for Congressional District number 34 here in California. Okay, so elections are happening right now. Let's talk about how people can vote, because I think there's a great confusion, and I don't have my ballot here,
Yeah.
but most people should have gotten a ballot already if you're in California. So if you got your ballot already, put a little heart in the comments or a little star or raise your hand, whatever you want. Let us know if you already have your ballot, and you can send it back. And what are some other recommendations, David, that you have for people that are getting these ballots and they maybe are used to going to cast their vote themselves? What are some
Yeah.
of the things, the tips?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, in regards to if you want to check first if you're registered to vote, you go to lavote.net. And if you're looking for a particular language, look up right at the upper right side. There's a language drop down menu. There should be. Because I tried looking for it and then I just realized after searching for it, it's at the top. But so don't do what I did. So do that, and then you'll be able to check your voter registration status, and then also see if your ballot was mailed out or will be mailed out. It also tells you that, and then also there is I think they'll probably fix it, but it took a while to find where the voting locations are. But it is
Right.
on that link, so do you can find it. And
LA
so
vote, LA, no, wait, what is it? Vote.gov,
lavote.net,
LA gov,
I
LA
believe it's
vote.net.
LA vote. Oh, sorry, lavote.gov. Yeah,
Okay, that's what
lavote.gov.
I thought. LA
lavote.gov.
vote.gov.
Correct. Yes.
Perfect.
LAvote.gov. And so the mail-in ballots you've received, if you've received your mail-in ballot and you know which candidates to vote for, which ones not, there are great voter guides out there online. Definitely don't just look at one voter guide. Look at a few to start giving you the juice and flowing of what issues after reading these voter guides align with me and do I care about more, and then really kind of lead and see where you flow with that. And then so you can turn in your mail-in ballots and by sending it back, or there are drop-off locations that are on that link as well. If you would prefer going in person because it's more exciting and you want to wait it out just in case any big scandal happens or something, then you can hold on to that. And 11 days before June 7th, so at the end of the month, there will be polling locations that will be open for 11 days or 4 days. In our district, I just checked to today, there's about 10 polling booth
Polling
locations
groups, yeah.
that will be open for 11 days. And then they're going to be opening about two more times that for the last 4 days from June 3rd through June 7th. So definitely
Amazing,
check that link
amazing, amazing. Okay, awesome. So I feel like people don't know how hard it can be to be a candidate for office. From like you're sleep deprived, you're walking like 5 miles a day. I was in the best shape of my life. Like when I ran for office, I lost so much weight
in. Yeah,
because of that walking and talking and energy.
yeah.
You're working in big groups, like you're working with your team and people come and go, and you want to, I'm a big hugger, so I'm always want to like hug and dance with people,
Mhm.
so but what are some of the what was your challenge, like if you can maybe share with us an anecdote, a story, what what has been like something very challenging for you this time, and this is your second time around, so I want to hear a compare and contrast between the first and the second.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can. You're totally a candidate. Obviously, everything you just shared, I was like, yep, I agree, I agree. I even saw some family members not too long ago, and they looked at me like, "Whoa, you lost so much weight." I'm like, I know, best shape of my life during campaign, but but yeah, in regards to last cycle and this cycle, so last cycle, Aura, when we filed to run, it was July 2019. It was just a friend and I, we just filed to run and we didn't know what to do or how to run a campaign. But all we knew was we need to get top two out of the five candidates
Hmm.
because we had five candidates at the time. And so we were like, all right, so if it's the two of us, and we need to get top two, and we've never been a candidate, we need to be smart about this. So
Yeah.
at first, we started knocking on doors, and then we did the math, and we were like, okay, times two people knocking on doors, this is not going to rank up any numbers. And so we were thinking, what's maximum visibility exposure? And so that's what we did. And that ended up getting us second place. So we got um, 22% of the vote for primary cycle last time. And then going into general, we had, I think it was just this, because it was a presidential election, we had a lot of volunteers sign up. And so going into the general, we had a lot of surge, momentum. And then during the last 2 months was very brutal because we got a tip from an insider source, a friend from Washington, saying that Jimmy had commissioned a poll for our race, and it showed us beating him within 5 points. And so, yeah, and so ever
Oh
since
my
that,
God. So he was like, it's all hands on deck now.
yeah, so then ever since that information came to us, our friend in Washington was like, "So be ready, he's gonna go all out the last 2 months," and
So
he
wait, you
did.
said earlier you guys decided we got to do the thing that gives us most visibility. What was that?
So it was basically just reaching out, connecting with the organizations that I already had
I
relationships with,
read.
and building those networks because I think there's you can't really underestimate people power when you have everybody linking arms and coming together.
Right.
So we did it more through that, and then also visibility with business flyers instead of that was just the first primary cycle. Instead of knocking on doors individually, it was putting flyers on businesses on kind of more exposure areas, and so being smart about
Yeah.
it. So
Wow, that is crazy. Okay, go on.
So yeah, no, so last general cycle, it was crazy, Aura, because then we started seeing our campaign signs being ripped. Like one, I think this was definitely in Boyle Heights and then El Sereno area. There was literally just streets of our yard signs just torn in half on the street.
Mm.
And at first we were like, oh, it could just be somebody just playing around doing jokes. But then the more we went around going checking around, we noticed that his campaign signs were stapled right on top of ours. And it wasn't just one. There were like 50 plus of them. So when you unstaple his sign, right underneath it is ours. And so it was just a lot of dirty kind of tactics like
Tricks.
that, tricks, or like he I know that one week he sent out 7 mailers in a row, 7 mailers, different mailers, and five of them all had Senator Bernie Sanders' picture on it. Um, and and the reason why I say that is Senator Sanders, when you called his office last cycle and you asked him, "Hey, did Senator Sanders endorse anybody in CA34?" His office or legislative director would say, "No, Senator Sanders chose not to endorse anybody in that race. He wants to see how it plays out." But yet Jimmy used Senator Sanders' picture and cartoon character on his mailers. And so we had a lot of constituents calling us back and on Facebook digital ads as well, calling us back and saying, hey, like, we're so confused. I thought Senator Sanders chose not to endorse, but Jimmy's saying he endorsed him. And so I think that also took away a lot of votes. And so it was just a lot of confusion that was created in the last 8 weeks. And so now, kind of fast forwarding, now we're in this cycle, Aura. In comparison, so Jimmy never campaigned primary cycle last time. The only time he campaigned was the last 3 months of the general cycle. This year, because he almost lost last time, he just launched his first primary campaign cycle, like campaign. He launched it last week with Sydney Kamalogger from CA37, where Daniel Lee's running. And But he launched a campaign and and is really sort of framing the narrative as if I'm a conservative candidate that isn't pro-choice, and I'm all about pro-choice and supporting that right. And so if you look at the rally, it's all about sort of that narrative, and it's like, wow, he really doesn't want to lose his seat this time, and so he's already sent out a poll as well last month where he sent out a poll and it says David Kim supports the public use of fentanyl and heroin. Do you support this? David Kim supports homeless encampments that endanger our children. Do you support this? David Kim supports defunding the police and military and disbanding the Air Force and Navy. Do you support this? And so he's now going into these fear mongering tactics that obviously he's very used to, that the establishment does. And so what you're
I'm so
seeing,
surprised because he's always trying to get airtime with the squad, and that's
yeah,
what the squad is all about.
yeah, so it doesn't make sense. Like on one time he's doing that, but then on the other he's also fear mongering. So I think he doesn't know what game to play, or and so they're just sort of kind of doing it as they go. So I feel like the tactics that are happening are the fear mongering tactics that we saw in Nina Turner's race that ended
Yeah,
last week, and that we're seeing in all of these establishment races. So um,
crazy, crazy,
we just
crazy.
need
I
to be ready.
know. I mean, I used to be called all sorts of things when I ran for city council. I mean, they used to say that that I was not Latina enough, that I was not black enough,
Mm,
that I only use Afro Latina when I was convenient for me. I was like, oh, okay.
yeah,
I
gosh.
mean, there was all sorts of things about I'm too pretty. I'm too
Well, I
pretty
mean,
to be here.
you are very pretty. I was like, can't argue with that, but no, I'm kidding. But
That I was too pretty to be running for office. That and I know we're being humorous about this, but I like to remind people that we need to go beyond
yeah,
identity politics, and we need
yeah,
to go beyond how one looks.
yeah,
There's a lot of
for
people
sure.
with suits and tights and respectable politicians of 30 years that are indicted by the FBI right now, that can serve our city. And people, we got to get smarter than that, guys. We got to really look at the track record of folks, what they do, what they stand for. This idea that, well, I live in the Latino neighborhood, so I can only choose Latinos, or I live in the Korean neighborhood, so only Koreans can run here, needs to go. We
Mhm,
deserve so much better. I mean, look, you're running in a very diverse. The other thing is that LA is so diverse as is.
mhm,
Like there's no corner where there's not like a mixture of cultures
mhm,
and ethnicities. So research your candidates, get the sources for where they're, because look, there are tactics like what you were mentioning just now of people that you trust and respect that are not honorable. And we need to move beyond that. We need to have a much more higher consciousness in the way that we vote and who we vote for. So
oh, you said higher consciousness. I love that. Okay, cool. You're my kind. Good job.
I can get very, I tell people I practice yoga and I meditate and I pray. I
Love it.
grew up in a Catholic home, and in fact, we were very crappy Catholics. We just went to the baptisms and the weddings, and my parents and I, we never pray. But with age and being exposed to other cultures, and so I learn, and it's so powerful. And we do need to
Yeah,
align with nature, and so much part of my passion and my commitment to fight for our planet comes because we need to be aligned with like our mother earth,
yeah.
so that's important. But enough with my rant for the moment. I wanted to ask you any fun anecdotes that you have on the campaign trail.
Any fun anecdotes? I've realized if I right now I'm in an apartment, but if I ever do have uh live in a home that has a lawn to and when I get a dog that's very nice, that doesn't bark, because when you go canvassing, Oh my gosh, I realized, whoa, like these dogs that bark all the time, they like they
Scary.
like they're so scary. So there was one anecdote was I walked up in Hyde Park, some of the residents there, to get to their front door, you have to go up these steep, narrow stair cases, and then you go up, and then you finally get to their front door. And this property didn't have like no like dogs beware, get off our property, no trespassing, no soliciting. It didn't have any of that. It had like flowers and signs, and so I thought, oh, okay, so it's good to go. And I go up, and then as I go to the front door, the door's open, and couldn't see it from when I was at the front gate. The door's
Uh-huh.
open, and then this huge dog just suddenly starts coming out, and it like looks at me, and it's like this tall, like right here. And I'm like, holy crap, I'm gonna be eaten today. And so I slowly backed out, and I was like this. And then the dog slowly like approached me. And we did that for like 40, 50 seconds. I was slowly walking back for 50 seconds. And then I finally closed the
So
front gate,
frightening.
and he followed me all the way to the front gate, and I closed it. And then the moment I started closing, he started barking and gnashing his teeth. And I was like, oh my gosh, he like saved me, or some angel saved me. I don't know what happened, but I was so thankful that day.
I
Anyhow,
know.
yeah.
We had in my campaign, we had a trick. We used to tell people, do you have a pair of keys, or do you have a quarter or something metal? So that
Oh,
when we always make the sound in the gate, because at least in my area, I have West Adams, I have Mid City, I have Crenshaw.
right,
They don't have one dog, they have many dogs,
right.
you know so we would like kind of knock first, but like my hands, oh, this is another fun trick. My
Uh-huh,
hands, my knuckles look like I was like in boxing fights, or like I was
uh-huh.
in the gym, because you know how you knock.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we started getting smart about it. I was like, okay, hold on, I feel like we should bring a key or a coin. So we always had
Uh,
something so we could like knock, and also just alert
make the sound.
if there were
Right.
animals um in the area, so that so that they could be like, get it out of their system, and we're like, okay, we're just leaving the paper here.
Yeah, yeah. Okay,
The
I'm gonna do
flyer
that
or
now.
whatever it was, or we just but yeah, they were like, that's one of my favorite parts, about running for office. Really, connecting with people, going door knocking, and
Yeah,
seeing them and hearing their stories. I mean, I have so
yeah,
many stories. I have gone to dinner with people. People be like, "Are you hungry?" And I'm like, "Sure." I have filled out paperwork for people while I was like canvassing. It
yeah.
was such an adventure every day. Or we will ask, my volunteers will always say, like, Aura's in this area, but she's not here. But if you want to communicate with her, send her a message right now on
Mhm.
Instagram
Right,
or on
right,
Twitter or on Facebook. And
right.
people will message me. And sometimes they'll be like, my roommate just came back. Do you want to come back? Come back and we can sign your petition or whatever.
Right,
Like
right.
it was very like heartwarming. So yeah. Well, elections are happening right now. So if you haven't gotten your ballot, you can go to lavote.gov or vote.gov and find out where your ballot is. In California, we have the advantage to send your ballot by the mail. But if you are suspicious, if you don't believe that your ballot gets counted, there's two things that you can do. You can go in person, which starts 10 days before election day, or you can sign up for the text messages, and it will follow your ballot until it gets counted. So that gives me a lot of like peace of mind when I do that.
For
It's
sure.
like it's a good way to do it. Okay, so if somebody that is watching, or the people that are sharing this message with their networks later, how they can get in touch with you, and what are some of the things that they can support you with? Like, what are some of the things that you need?
Yeah, and then just to add to that, I would for if somebody says, "Hey, like I'm a designated community activist picking up ballots. You can just give me it and I'll drop it off." Really make sure you do know that person, and really make
Mm,
sure that you know another person that knows that person, because we have ballot sisters where people pick them up and then just throw them away. So just be mindful of that.
Oh
I know
yeah,
it
they
seems
do
like
that.
yeah, I know it seems like distant, but it could happen to anybody. So just be aware of that. So if you want to go to our campaign, our website is davidkim4ca.com, forca.com. And if you go to the events page, and it's just the website URL /events. You can go ahead and see what events you want to come out to and then volunteer. I know Nicole, our campaign director, she just dropped that into the Instagram
Into the
chat.
chat and Instagram, but I
Yeah.
also post it here on the chat on Facebook and everywhere else. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so definitely do that. My email, if you want to reach out, it's david@davidkim4ca.com. I only check that email, so you can email me. And then for general campaign, it's info@davidkim4ca.com. We're just looking for more people to help out in different ways, whether it be with our email campaigns, our social media, our text banking, getting the word out, and also if you want to host like a small private event in your own neighborhood, get to know the candidate type of thing, always down for that and meeting new people. So
Awesome. Okay, so you guys can volunteer. You can chip in. I see Nikki posting on the chat. You can host a meet and greet. You can do a phone bank. There's so many ways. And another way is, we just had some really good conversation here. You can share this with people in your neighborhood. And said, like, if you don't know this guy, you should check out this conversation. And
perfect.
sometimes you can get a lot of information that way. So it's a good way to bring awareness. Well, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much, Aura. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. And I wish you luck. And I hope that for not just for yourself, but for our whole community, this June and this November is a good indicator that we are headed to progress, that we are rising the consciousness, the political consciousness that we need to all get better at, and we are getting involved. That's much of something that I try to ignite with my conversations and with my social media. So thank you so much for running, and good luck, and we'll see you again very soon.
Thank you, Aura.
All right. All right, everyone. And that was David Kim. And I hope you enjoy it, this conversation. And please share this information with your networks and with the people that you know. And I hope that I see you again. We're going to have the Women's March coming up on Saturday, and all over the country, women are marching for the right to choose and what to do with their body. But I want to encourage you to stay in touch and to stay involved. Thank you guys so much. And I talk to you very soon. Bye bye.